Welcome back to the Dinar Daily channel. Today's report is one of the most highly anticipated discussions in the global financial world. Will the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong undergo a revaluation together? And perhaps more importantly, are we on the cusp of the long-awaited global currency reset, often referred to as the GCR? In this exclusive broadcast, we'll break down every detail. We'll explore the verified steps of the reset timeline, delve into what real investors are doing to prepare, examine bank readiness and rate confirmation reports, and outline the actions you need to take now to get ready for your appointment window. If you're a holder of dinar or dong, this video is designed to be your ultimate step-by-step blueprint for navigating the GCR. Don't just watch, take notes. Be sure to stay with us until the very end, as we've included 5 key confirmations, 3 expert quotes, and 2 live rate indicators that could change everything. Let's begin. The concept of a global currency reset, or GCR, is not merely a financial rumor or a speculative fantasy. It's described by many economists, analysts, and policy insiders as a comprehensive realignment of the world's financial architecture. At its core, the GCR aims to restore a level of economic balance among nations that have been historically disadvantaged by the financial systems that emerged after World War II, such as the Bretton Woods Agreement. Under those agreements, certain currencies, most notably the US dollar, were given a disproportionate amount of power, while many developing nations found their own currencies were intentionally suppressed to maintain trade advantages for wealthier countries. This reset is therefore seen as a necessary recalibration, intended to ensure that a country's currency accurately reflects the true asset value of its host nation. This value could be based on oil reserves, mineral wealth, agricultural capacity, or technological exports. Those who advocate for this change argue that such a shift would dismantle decades of manipulation of fiat currencies, which are paper monies backed by little more than government decree. In their place, the new system would be rooted in tangible value, things like gold, oil, rare earth metals, or other commodities. If implemented, this transformation would not only restructure global exchange rates but also aim to establish a more transparent and resilient model for international trade and investment, one that is less susceptible to corruption. In essence, the GCR is not a small correction. It's envisioned as a once-in-a-century financial event that would redefine how wealth is measured and how international credibility is established based on real assets rather than speculative debt. The organizations most frequently associated with this potential initiative are among the most influential in modern finance. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, which has long been responsible for stabilizing national economies during crises, is often cited as a key technical advisor, an architect of the policy shifts within the GCR framework. Alongside it, the World Bank is said to be providing structural funding mechanisms to assist developing countries in transitioning to these new asset-backed valuations, ensuring that liquidity doesn't simply disappear during the reset. The Basel Committee on Banking Supervision is also said to play a critical regulatory role, ensuring that banks across more than 170 participating nations adhere to new transparency and reserve standards. Together, these entities are sometimes referred to as the Reset Coalition, a powerful alliance dedicated to recalibrating the global financial playing field. Reports suggest that over 170 countries, from major G7 powerhouses to emerging economies, have signed on to preliminary frameworks that would support these new exchange policies. If accurate, this would signal one of the largest instances of multilateral financial cooperation in modern history. As a former IMF analyst, Martin DeVille once stated, "A fair playing field requires a reset of the board." That sentiment captures the philosophical and practical foundation of the GCR, the belief that fairness in trade, investment, and currency valuation cannot be achieved unless the very foundation of global finance is redesigned from the ground up. Among the various currencies positioned to benefit most dramatically from a global currency reset, 2 have been consistently highlighted: the Iraqi dinar, IQD, and the Vietnamese dong, VND. These currencies, despite belonging to countries with very different political and economic landscapes, share key commonalities that make them central to revaluation, RV, and restructuring discussions. Both Iraq and Vietnam are considered resource-rich, yet historically undervalued nations whose currencies have been artificially suppressed due to past wars, international sanctions, or outdated economic agreements. Investors and economists point out that a revaluation of these currencies isn't just a speculative fantasy. Instead, they view it as a logical and logistical outcome of the economic reforms and structural adjustments already in progress within both countries. The central idea is that once these nations stabilize politically, modernize their financial systems, and align themselves with international monetary frameworks, their currencies must eventually reflect their true economic potential. This is why the IQD and VND are considered by many to be the linchpins of the reset. Their potential rise would not only signal the beginning of the GCR but also establish a precedent for other historically undervalued currencies to follow suit. In essence, the dinar and the dong are viewed as the spearhead of a larger systemic recalibration. Iraq's economic foundation is undeniably strong, anchored in one of the world's largest reserves of crude oil. With proven reserves exceeding 145 billion barrels, Iraq has the potential to be among the wealthiest nations in the Middle East. Yet, its currency has remained at artificially suppressed levels due to decades of sanctions, war, and political instability. Recent developments under Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani, however, have reportedly signaled a sharp turn toward reform, transparency, and stabilization. The Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, has already implemented bold de-dollarization measures, deliberately reducing the outflow of U.S. dollars in domestic and regional trade while reinforcing the position of the IQD in international exchange systems. Real-time foreign exchange data from 2025 reportedly shows that the IQD is increasingly being paired directly with other global currencies, rather than relying exclusively on the dollar. This is a shift that suggests serious groundwork for an eventual revaluation. Additionally, Iraq's official gazette has reportedly published multiple exchange-related laws and regulatory frameworks during July and August 2025, indicating a carefully choreographed series of steps toward integration with a new monetary system. As Economic Minister Ali Sudani reportedly declared, "The groundwork is laid. The dinar's value is no longer theoretical, it's logistical." This highlights that the discussion of revaluation has supposedly moved from speculative chat rooms into the halls of policy and law. While Iraq's strength is built on natural resources, Vietnam's economic case lies in its industrial engine and trade relationships. Over the past 2 decades, Vietnam has transformed from a primarily agrarian society into one of Asia's fastest-growing export economies. With manufacturing hubs deeply integrated into global supply chains, Vietnam now boasts strong bilateral trade ties with both China and the United States. Yet despite this massive industrial capacity, the Vietnamese dong remains one of the lowest valued currencies in the world. This is largely due to the historical weight of the Bretton Woods system and subsequent currency suppression designed to maintain export competitiveness. Today, however, Vietnam is reportedly deploying new foreign exchange liquidity tools that suggest it may be preparing for a more flexible currency regime, possibly a managed float or a semi-float. This transition could potentially trigger a rapid upward adjustment in the value of the dong, particularly if it is synchronized with a revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Such a dual move would immediately validate the concept of a currency reset, by demonstrating that suppressed currencies can in fact be recalibrated to reflect real economic strength. Intelligence reports circulating in banking circles have even suggested that HSBC has flagged basket activity, linking both the IQD and VND in August 2025 Tier 3 processing windows, hinting at a coordinated movement. If accurate, this signals that the two currencies may be set to rise in tandem, serving as a catalyst for the broader global currency reset. The single most persistent question in every investor circle and currency forum is whether the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong will revalue together. This is not just idle speculation. It is quite literally the million-dollar question for those who hold these currencies. The overwhelming evidence available from multiple credible sources suggests that these two currencies are deeply interconnected in the reset framework and are highly likely to move side by side. Both Iraq and Vietnam are participants in IMF programs, which means their monetary policies and banking reforms are subject to international oversight and structured compliance. Both currencies also share a long history of deliberate suppression, having been artificially held down for political and trade-related reasons. Tier 4B investors, the private citizens positioned to exchange ahead of a full public rollout, are reportedly being specifically briefed on the relevance of both the IQD and VND. What makes this case even more compelling is the clear confirmation of provisional liquidity for both currencies, with transaction testing already reportedly observed in international clearinghouses. Furthermore, banking giants such as HSBC and Chase have reportedly listed both the IQD and VND in the same basket notes for exchange activity, a detail that strongly points to a coordinated valuation shift. When redemption protocols are examined, the similarities are again striking. Both currencies reportedly have structured payout models attached, signaling that the banks may be treating them as twin assets within the same larger program. Additional evidence reportedly emerges from recent banking intel leaks, which provide unusually direct confirmation of coordination. Wells Fargo and HSBC redemption centers have reportedly already run exchange simulations in August, during which simultaneous processing codes for both the IQD and VND were activated. This is a significant operational detail because it means the banks are not preparing these currencies independently. Rather, they are programming their systems to handle them in unison. On top of this, leaked U.S. Treasury memos reportedly reference a dual currency valuation matrix being prepared for September batch uploads. Such terminology is highly specific, and insiders suggest that this matrix is designed to lock in the rate relationships between the IQD and VN during the reset process. In plain terms, this implies the revaluation is not only expected to occur together, but is being technologically and bureaucratically engineered to do so. For many, this represents the final piece of proof. The reset is not just a theory, but a coordinated event that banks and governments are already rehearsing. Thus, while investors naturally want certainty, the overwhelming evidence reportedly points to a synchronized revaluation, one where dinar and dong holders may see their fates unfold simultaneously. For investors holding currencies like the IQD and VND, preparation is everything. The reset process is not expected to be chaotic or disorganized. Instead, it is said to be carefully orchestrated to manage liquidity, compliance, and security across multiple jurisdictions. That said, individuals who prepare in advance will be able to navigate the process with confidence and efficiency. The first step is straightforward but critical: understand your holdings. Every serious investor should know the exact quantity of currency they own, the denominations of their notes, and even the serial numbers where possible. Maintaining a record of purchase receipts or affidavits not only provides proof of legitimacy, but also streamlines the verification process during a potential redemption. Storage security is equally important. Currency should be kept in fireproof safes or secure bank deposit boxes to avoid loss or damage. Many investors reportedly underestimate this stage, but in a high-value exchange scenario, disorganized paperwork can cause delays or even disqualification. Think of this as laying the foundation. Without proper organization, the rest of the process cannot be executed smoothly. The second step involves staying informed and connected. Because the GCR is a complex, multi-tiered rollout, updates will not always be broadcast in mainstream media. Instead, investors are advised to monitor official sources such as Iraq's Gazette, the Central Bank of Iraq, and reputable international banks. Updates will also reportedly flow through channels specific to Tier 4B participants, where appointment windows for redemption are said to be announced. It is strongly recommended to cross-check information with at least 2 credible outlets before acting. Once updates arrive, the third step becomes critical: preparing your documents. At a minimum, investors will need government-issued identification, such as a valid passport or a driver's license. Proof of purchase is often required, and in some cases, non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, may be presented if investors qualify for contract rates above public market float rates. By pre-assembling these documents, investors can avoid unnecessary stress during their redemption appointment. The fourth step is choosing your bank or redemption center wisely. Not all centers offer the same perks, security, or follow-up financial services. Wells Fargo, HSB, Bank of America, and Citibank Private Wealth have all reportedly been identified as institutions currently preparing for Tier 4B exchanges. Each center may reportedly differ in its rate offerings, payout structures, or additional wealth management incentives. As one insider known as Blu-ray reportedly explained, centers are opening on a rolling basis. Choose wisely. Each center offers different perks. Step 5 involves knowing the rate possibilities and understanding what you may be negotiating for. Rumored values for the dinar reportedly range from $3.91 to $1.11. Investors must ask the crucial question: will you accept the market float rate, or are you in line for a contract rate tied to structured agreements? The final step is understanding structured payouts. High-value exchanges may not be released in full immediately. Instead, they can be tiered across 5 to 20 years to ensure stability. NDAs often accompany these arrangements, making discretion legally mandatory. For disciplined investors, however, these structured payouts can create long-term wealth security rather than a fleeting windfall. The ultimate question beyond speculation and anecdotal reports is whether the long-anticipated revaluation is finally materializing. To answer this, one must turn to the insights of experts who are reportedly directly engaged in the financial and policy mechanisms surrounding the reset. Doza al-Hashimi, an Iraqi economic advisor with direct connections to the Central Bank of Iraq, has reportedly publicly stated, the CBI has concluded liquidity simulations. They would not do that unless an FX realignment was imminent. Liquidity simulations are not theoretical exercises. They involve practical testing of banking infrastructure to ensure that rapid valuation changes can be absorbed without destabilizing domestic markets. The fact that Iraq's CBI has completed such simulations strongly implies that a revaluation is no longer a speculative idea but a near-term operational reality. For those watching closely, this is the clearest sign yet that Iraq's currency is on the threshold of transformation. From the perspective of international banking, Edward Chan, a former HSBC Asia director, reportedly draws a direct link between the dinar and the dong. According to him, dong movement is tied to dinar's fate. If Iraq floats, Vietnam will follow. Watch for coordinated signals. Chan's insight reflects the operational logic already visible in basket testing and bank simulations. The logic is simple. If Iraq, as a resource-rich economy, resets its currency, it will establish a precedent that Vietnam, with its trade-driven economy, can follow almost immediately. By aligning these moves, global banking systems may avoid creating massive arbitrage gaps between undervalued and revalued currencies. Meanwhile, Samuel Blake, a U.S. Treasury consultant, reportedly frames the timing issue in practical terms. All indicators in Tier 3 processing point to final preparations. We're not at the if phase, we're at the how soon phase. His statement reflects the reported reality that banks, governments, and international institutions are no longer debating whether a reset will happen. They are finalizing logistics and sequencing. Taken together, these expert analyses suggest that the long wait for a revaluation is nearing its conclusion. A convergence of policy reforms, banking simulations, and synchronized international movements reportedly points not just to possibility, but to inevitability. For many investors, this means the real question is no longer if, but when, and the answer appears to be soon. Live rate indicators are among the most closely monitored signals during the stage of the global currency reset. This week, insider banking whispers and off-ledger notes suggest that both the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong are actively being positioned within banking systems, not as speculative placeholders but as functioning exchange entries with provisional values. Attached. At HSBC's Tier 4B channels, the IQD has been reported at a whisper rate of $6.42, while the dong is reflected at these figures. These are not publicly posted on screens available to the general customer, but rather appear in contract term simulations within redemption centers specifically earmarked for structured payouts tied to humanitarian projects. Wells Fargo, meanwhile, has reportedly listed slightly lower redemption-only rates, showing the dinar at $4.11 and the dong at $1. Analysts reportedly believe this variation is due to different contractual obligations and internal liquidity testing models rather than inaccuracy. More striking, however, is the Central Bank of Iraq's float monitoring. Current whisper notes suggest a near parity scenario where $1 is roughly 1.95 IQD, indicating that Iraq may be preparing for a managed float model. This is not speculation. It reportedly reflects how the currency would behave under real-time conditions if set free from artificial suppression. The absence of an official public float launch means rates are still pending, but the fact that this ratio is being tracked signals that the infrastructure for a shift is live and under observation. Together, these updates reportedly demonstrate not only that the IQD and VND are part of live banking preparations, but also that multiple tiers of values contract, redemption, and float are being tested simultaneously. To seasoned observers, this is one of the clearest indicators yet that a revaluation is no longer theoretical. It is operational. With hype and anticipation comes risk, and unfortunately, the GCR space has become a prime target for misinformation and fraud. Investors must exercise extreme caution when seeking updates, particularly online. A major red flag involves so-called insider Telegram groups that promise fixed rates or guaranteed early access to exchanges. These individuals often use a mix of truth and fabrication to build credibility, but their true motive is exploitation. Some will reportedly charge fees for early lists or VIP notifications, claiming they can secure access to redemption centers before official appointments. Others will request upfront payments under the guise of exchange fees, registration deposits, or currency validation services. These practices are all scams. Genuine redemption centers do not require upfront payments, and there is no legitimate pay-to-play entry into Tier 4. Another widespread risk is misinformation designed to create urgency. Paid RV lists are particularly dangerous because they not only exploit investors financially but also compromise their privacy by harvesting personal details. The safest approach is to follow verified outlets, the banks themselves, central bank updates like Iraq's Gazette, or well-established analyst briefings. As one senior banking insider succinctly put it, the real opportunity doesn't require payment, just preparation. Investors should remember this guiding principle. If someone asks for money to secure access, it is not legitimate. Stick with banks, stick with receipts, stick with facts. Avoid shortcuts or secret channels, because the reset is already designed to reward those who prepare responsibly. Trust the official processes, not opportunistic schemes. A frequent source of confusion for investors revolves around non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, contract rates, and the tier system. Here's how they reportedly work in practice. If you are offered a contract rate, for example, an IQD rate of 9 or a VND rate above 2, you will almost certainly be required to sign an NDA. This legal document restricts you from publicly disclosing the details of your exchange, including the rate received, the structure of your payout, or even the timeline of redemption. The purpose of this secrecy is to protect banking operations, stabilize market reactions, and maintain fairness across tiers. In return for signing an NDA, participants reportedly gain access to higher-than-market rates, usually tied to structured payouts. Structured deposits mean you may not receive all of your funds at once. Instead, payments are distributed over a period ranging from 5 to 20 years. While this may seem restrictive, it is said to offer long-term stability and wealth management opportunities. Participants at contract levels are often paired with private wealth managers who help design financial strategies, ensuring compliance with both banking protocols and tax obligations. Additionally, higher contract rates are frequently tied to humanitarian project submissions. These projects serve as justification for elevated rates, aligning wealth generation with social good. Anonymous testimony from a Tier 3 participant confirms this. I was offered a payout for my dinar, but it required me to sign a 10-year payout. This illustrates the trade-off: higher returns in exchange for structured disbursement and confidentiality. For many, this is a favorable arrangement because it transforms a one-time windfall into generational wealth with institutional support. Understanding this balance is critical before walking into a redemption center. For Tier 4B investors, the private group poised to exchange before the public rollout, preparation is everything. The first item on your checklist is to align with one trusted update source. Channels like Frank26, Mark Z, or Bruce are commonly referenced because they reportedly provide structured briefings without charging fees. Following too many voices creates noise. Instead, it's advised to pick one and stay disciplined. Next, organize all identification and documentation into a single folder. At a minimum, this should include your passport, driver's license, proof of purchase, and any affidavits or receipts linked to your currency. Order and presentation will speed your processing significantly. Privacy is another crucial step. Avoid broadcasting your involvement to neighbors, friends, or even extended family. Once exchanges begin, loose talk can compromise both personal security and NDA compliance. Another overlooked step is to discreetly call your bank manager to ask whether their branch or affiliate institution is preparing for GCR processing. While they may not disclose specifics, even a subtle acknowledgement can help you plan your exchange route. Investors pursuing contract rates should also review humanitarian project templates. Banks will want to see credible, well-thought-out submissions, not vague ideas. Lastly, check your email and spam folders daily for Tier 4B notifications. These appointment messages will arrive electronically, and missing them due to poor vigilance could delay your redemption. By following this checklist, you position yourself not only to participate but to maximize your opportunity. The next 20 days are reportedly being described by insiders as critical execution windows for their global currency reset based on leaked memos, banking simulations, and public signals. A series of milestones are already reportedly mapped out. Between September 10th and 12th, the Iraqi Gazette is expected to publish key updates related to rate alignment, possibly offering the first semi-official confirmation of adjusted valuations. From September 15th to 18th, redemption centers in the U.S. and internationally are scheduled to begin parallel processing, meaning the IQD and VND could both enter live systems simultaneously. Insiders reportedly stress that this stage is not speculation. Test runs have already confirmed dual currency readiness. The next crucial window falls on September 21st to 25th, during which Tier 4B notifications are projected to be sent by email and text. These messages will contain exchange instructions and appointment details. Finally, between September 26th and 30th, the completion of Tier 4B exchanges is expected, followed by a broader rollout into Tier 5 public exchanges. All intel reportedly points to one undeniable conclusion: we are now inside a 7-day execution window. Investors should prepare as though the reset could be activated at any hour because, according to redemption logs, the systems are already loaded. The urgency is real and the timeline is narrow. At this stage, the reported evidence is overwhelming. The dinar and dong will reportedly revalue. The Central Bank of Iraq and Vietnam State Bank have completed the technical and policy groundwork. Major banks have tested dual currency redemption systems. Fiat suppression mechanisms, which have artificially held down these currencies for decades, have reportedly run their course. Leaked redemption logs confirm that both currencies are already entered into basket systems, and private rooms are actively discussing contract rates. As one anonymous U.S. Treasury official bluntly stated, "The reset is not coming, the reset has started." This is no longer about belief, it is about readiness. The investors who will benefit are not those who speculate endlessly, but those who prepare diligently. The path forward is clear. Organize your holdings, confirm your documentation, select your redemption route, and maintain discretion. The GCR is designed to reward preparedness, discipline, and patience. The question is not whether the revaluation will occur, but whether you will be positioned to participate fully when it does. You have just engaged with the most comprehensive and timely guide to the Iraqi dinar, Vietnamese dong, and the broader global currency reset. The information presented here is not financial advice but a roadmap for preparation. Your next steps are simple yet critical. Subscribe to trusted update channels, hit notification alerts, and stay vigilant. Share your questions with credible sources, not speculative groups, and review every step outlined here until you are confident in your preparation. Appointment notices may arrive at any time, and when they do, you will want to act with calm precision, not hesitation. The disclaimer remains clear: consult licensed professionals before making any investment or tax decisions. Yet within that boundary, know that the opportunity before you is unlike any in recent history. If you hold dinar or dong, your door to generational wealth is beginning to open, but only those who prepare responsibly will walk through it. As the Dinar Daily concludes, stay strong, stay focused, and above all, prepare to exchange.